So we have our final keynote of Culture Summit 2018 with Dr. Karlyn Borysenko, who is the owner and principal of Zen Workplace, who will be talking about creating real-time engagement without spending a dime. Not even a dime? Not a dime. So Dr. Karlyn Borysenko is the force behind Zen Workplace, an organizational psychologist and performance coach. She helps individuals find greater happiness and fulfillment at work using positive psychology and highly practical mindfulness. She holds an MBA and a PhD in psychology and is the author of the forthcoming book, Zen at Work, which comes out in September. She's based in Boston and she serves clients all over the world. So let's give a standing ovation to Dr. Karlyn Borysenko. Let's get up. Let's do it.
Oh my God. Wow. Look at this room. Oh my God. Okay, no pressure. No pressure. All right, so I had to register for, does this work? There we go. I had to register for a conference a couple years ago, and one of the questions on the registration form was, what is your superpower? And I don't know if it was I was really busy or I was just like not really that creative that day, but I could not think of anything. My mind totally blanked. And so I did what pretty much anyone would do, I think. I went on Facebook and I asked my friends, I said, guys, what is my superpower? And they said, Karlyn, it's like the easiest thing in the world. It's brute force honesty. And so guys, like, don't let the PhD fool you, okay? I'm not an academic. I'm not sitting in an ivory tower teaching classes, never setting foot in an organization. I get my hands dirty when I do this stuff. I work with people at all levels, not just executive, all the way down to entry level. And so the stuff we're gonna talk about in the presentation today, it's gonna seem deceptively simple. But it is the stuff that I see missing over and over again when it comes to creating employee engagement and culture and all the things that we're worried about. But let's just take a step back here for a second. Like, what does employee engagement even mean? Right? I go to all these conferences and I talk to all the vendors that have the tool that's gonna fix all your employee engagement problems. I go up to them and say, what does employee engagement mean? Every single one of them gives me a different answer. Of course. So I thought we would start off just by talking about my definition of employee engagement. And that way, if you agree with me, you can stick around. If you don't agree with me, you can go to the bar a little bit early. I'll come down later. We can debate it. But so let's just make sure we're on the same page, all right? So here's my definition. Employee engagement is when your team is come in primed to give it their all, no matter what their role is. They're intrinsically motivated to do their best work. Is everyone on board with that? Does that sound good? Right on. Pretty simple, right? Right? Well, of course we know it's not simple because we know that 2/3 of American workers are self-reporting that they are disengaged in their job. Only 50% of workers consider their job to be part of their identity. And when you look at people under 30, that number goes down to 30%. Come on, clicker, there we go. But this next one is my absolute favorite. 65% of workers would choose firing their boss over getting a pay raise. Like, come on, man. So what is going on here? What's going on? And I think, for me, part of the problem is this idea of job satisfaction being something we should look at. Like satisfaction, the word job satisfaction, it bothers me so much. Satisfaction is such a low bar. You know what I'm really satisfied? Like a burger at Five Guys, I am totally satisfied with that meal. Completely or like the Impossible Burger, I just had one yesterday for the first time. Totally satisfactory experience, right? But am I getting up every day like psyched to go to Five Guys? No. We have forgotten that there is a difference between not being miserable and being happy. Like you come in to work every day and say, okay, I'm not a ditch digger today, I guess it's good enough. I mean, come on, there's a difference between not being miserable and being happy. And really, when it comes down to it at the end of the day, employee engagement for me is about being happy. We have to start thinking about it on that very emotional level because we are emotional beings, right? And to explain why that is, I'm gonna talk a little bit about how the brain works. Is that okay with everyone? Yeah. Okay, just a little tiny bit. I'm gonna tell you a story. So I go to a lot of events like this, right? And several years ago, I'm from Boston, and I was going to an event in Austin, Texas, one of the best cities in the world. Who doesn't love Austin, right? And so I showed up at the airport about 9 a.m. on a Sunday morning, and I was finishing up some of my doctoral classes at the time, and I was doing like advanced quantitative research classes. So I looked in my bag and I was like, shit, the only book that I brought was my quantitative research textbook. And as thrilling as that topic is, it was just not what I wanted to read at like 9 a.m. on a Sunday morning. So I went to the airport bookstore, got your typical paperback bestseller, got on the plane. Sat down next to this really nice looking older guy, there he is, in a very nice, expensive, tailored suit, and he's on the phone with his wife, and they're laughing and joking, and clearly the spark was still there after all those years, and just kind of smiled and sat down and opened my book, started reading. A couple minutes later, he had to hang up his phone, and he turned to me and struck up a conversation, and of course, a couple minutes after that, he says, oh, what are you reading? And like, I don't embarrass easily, guys. But I may have turned a shade or two of red when I showed him my copy of 50 Shades of Grey and confessed that I was reading smut. And he was a good-natured guy, and he pulled out his copy of the Wall Street Journal, and he pointed to not one, not two, but 3 stories about men in high-level government positions having affairs on their wives and having to resign those positions because of it. He said, look, I'm reading smut too. So what does any of this have to do with employee engagement? Not a goddamn thing. But you know, it's the last talk of the day, it's been a long event, and now I know I have your attention, don't I? Right? Brilliant. And here's how I know I have your attention. We are going to think of the brain as being split into 3 different parts. And I'm not going to get sciencey here, guys. I'm not going to talk about the limbic system, frontal lobe, and all those things. This is an analogy just so you get the concept of how this works. Think of the brain as split into 3 different parts. We have the old brain, the midbrain, and the new brain. The old part of the brain was the very first part of the brain to develop way, way, way back when we were cavemen, and it is interested in 3 things. It's interested in food, survival, and sex. And that's it. And it is constantly scanning our environment, looking for those 3 things. And when it finds one of them, it perks you up, bing, like a dog that has just seen a bone. It says, pay attention to this. This is important. Now, this is an unconscious process. You are not aware of all the work that your old brain is doing at any given moment because your old brain is taking in a ton of data. It's taking in 11 million pieces of information every single second. If we were conscious of that, we would go insane. So the old brain tries to help us out, and it filters out a whole ton of information. And it leaves us with about 40 pieces of information left, right? So 11 million pieces of information go in, 40 pieces remain. And the old brain tries really hard to make all of our decisions for us using that 11 million pieces of information every second. But if the decision does not relate to food, survival, or sex, it has to consult a friend. And it consults the midbrain. Now, the midbrain is where we process all of our emotions. And just like the old brain, this is an unconscious process. So we're not always aware of even what we're feeling or why we're feeling or any of those things. Now, the midbrain, just to give you guys an example, is where all of our gut instincts come from. So anytime that like you just know something is true, like say you walk into a room and you just know something is wrong before anyone has said anything, that's your midbrain. It's processing that same 11 million pieces of information. It's delivering you an answer. It's just not telling you how it got there. So we have our survivor instinct, we have our emotions, and then we have the new brain. And the new brain is what gets us into trouble, because this is where we process all logic and reason. And it is also the only part of the brain that we are consciously aware of. And that's why we think that human beings are logical, rational beings, because it's the only part that we can access on a continual basis, right? But here's the thing. The new brain, in terms of influence on our decision-making, is one of the weakest parts of the brain. If I had to rank it in like an org chart, you've got your new brain at the director level, you've got your midbrain at the vice president, and you've got your old brain as the CEO. So the new brain is just not that influential in our decision-making. Now, what does this all mean? So I just want to give you guys warning. This next slide is the one you're going to want to take the picture of, okay? It's the one you're going to want to write on a sticky note and put it on your computer monitor because it explains every single people problem that you have at work. Here it is. Human beings make decisions emotionally, and then they justify them rationally. I'm just gonna leave that one up for a second. I'll say it again. Human beings make decisions emotionally, and then they justify them rationally. And so what does that mean for employee engagement? It means people need to be emotionally connected to their work. It really is that simple. The phrase, "it's not personal, it's just business," is the biggest lie that has been perpetrated out there. It couldn't be more personal. This is how you pay your rent, your mortgage, how you send your kids to school, how you go out on a Friday night. This could not be a more personal question. Look, when it comes down to culture and employee engagement and all these things, it has nothing to do with how much money you make. It has nothing to do with the paycheck. I hear it all the time with these companies I go in, and people say, well, I'm not paid enough for this, or I deserve a raise for this. The problem isn't the money that they're making. The problem is something else. And then some organizations, they'll even give them more money because they don't want them to quit. So they're like, okay, here's your raise, here's your bonus, here's your fancy employee engagement perk. And you know what happens when they do that is they see a temporary boost in productivity and engagement. But that boost only lasts about 2 to 4 weeks because they are not treating the problem. They're just given a nice little present and hoping it'll go away. Right? Promotions do the same thing. Promotions give you that nice temporary boost. It's kind of like getting a car, right? You got new car smell, you're feeling really good, but new car smell wears off. And so does the impact of promotions. And this next one, I'm sorry guys, I hate to say this, I know, but technology isn't the answer either. It's not. And I'm not anti-technology by any means. You will pry my cell phone out of my cold, dead hands, okay? But the problem is that a lot of organizations, they bring in the technology to avoid solving the human problems. If the technology is to supplement the solutions to human problems, it's cool, but not as a way to avoid it. All right? So we've got to get back to basics here. We've really got to do that. And the clicker's got to advance too. There we go. Because employee engagement is emotional. It's individual. It's all in the day-to-day experience, and it's really, really, really hard to do. And that's why I absolutely love that there's this event. And did anyone have this banner popping up on like every website they went to? Yeah, and I didn't mind it so much because I love this banner because it's the number one thing I hear when there are employee engagement problems in organizations I work with is, that's HR's job. Why isn't leadership doing anything? Every single person in this room, here's my challenge to you guys. Every single one of you needs to take personal responsibility for having the role in fixing the employee engagement problem. I don't care what your title is. I don't care what your salary is. I don't care what your rank is. I don't care what your day job is. Every single person has got to take responsibility for this. It's not just about HR or your executives, right? Bonus if they're on board, but if they're not, there's still things you can do. And that's what we're going to spend the rest of our time talking about today. So the first one I'm going to give you, it's going to seem a little counterintuitive, but you need to be strong if you're going to fix employee engagement and culture problems. You need to have that internal strength, that internal confidence. Look, there's no surprise to anyone here that Burnham and Churnham environments are never, ever, 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 ever going to have strong employee engagement. Right? Because it's just not physiologically possible. What happens when people are stressed out or burned out or anxious or frustrated or angry is their brain shuts down the creative centers of it. And it sends all that energy to fixing the survival problems. Because you already know that one of the brain's highest priorities is your survival. Right? When we are highly stressed out, that is making you physically sick. It's not just about feeling bad. It does make you physically sick. And so your brain takes all the resources that you might dedicate to creativity and innovation and all the fun stuff, and it sends it right to fixing the survival problem, so it just doesn't work. But here's the thing. We can help people to change their perspective on what's going on, and every single person can have a role in this. We've got to start teaching people that saying no to things is okay. We've got to start giving people permission to set boundaries at work. And permission might seem like a weird word. It might seem like permission can only come from their boss, but that's not true. I give people permission to do stuff all the time. Who the hell am I? Right? You can talk to your friends at work, your coworkers, people you just have good relationships. Tell them it's okay. When you do this, you will actually visibly see their body relaxing. That means they've taken that as permission. We have to start teaching people that work-life balance is a positive thing. Now, work-life balance doesn't look the same for everyone, and it's not going to look the same for you when you're 20 as it will when you're 40, right? But people have to have that downtime outside of work. And as much as I hate the term job satisfaction, work-life balance is the #1 indicator of job satisfaction. #1 indicator of if someone's going to be happy in their job. So it is important. But I think most importantly, we need to start teaching people that their contribution is valued, that they are valued, right? And that all starts with you. Starting today, make yourself your own guinea pig in this experiment and just get yourself feeling really good every day you come into work. Because if you can't do it for yourself, thank you. If you can't do it for yourself, who's gonna do it for you? No one. And if you can't do it for yourself, you can't do it for other people. It simply doesn't work. Look, guys, we make a decision every single day to come into work and either be in a good mood or a bad mood. And when you come in a bad mood, being angry or stressed out or frustrated, the #1 thing an angry person wants is to make other people around them angry. Because that makes it okay for them to be angry. Right? So you have to become conscious that this choice does exist. You choose to be happy or you choose not to be. All the positive psychology research in the world, by the way, backs it up that people who are happy make the choice to be happy. So you can come in every day and be like this, or you can be like this, right? And The Office is such a great example for this, by the way, because like Dwight's a dick. But does Jim ever let Dwight bother him? No. Jim always keeps a level head no matter what Dwight says, no matter what Dwight does. He might bobble here and there, but Jim is generally in a pretty good mood, right? You can make that same choice. You can choose to be un-F-withable. Yeah, I censored it. I know. But listen, guys, this is about being at peace with who you are, knowing that what you bring to the table and all the experiences you have are valuable. And when you're truly at peace, then none of the nonsense that happens at work is going to bother you, right? That's where we need to get to, because you cannot help other people and take care of other people until you take care of yourself. So do we have that commitment today to taking care of ourselves and making sure we're feeling good? Yes. Awesome, yeah. All right. Here's the next thing you need to do. This is where we start getting into deceptively simple territory, all right? You need to listen. Now, I'm one of those people that organizations hire to come in and coach their problem children, right? These are the employees that generally have very high potential, but they're having interpersonal problems and they're pissing a lot of people off, and they bring me in and they're like, you need to teach him how to communicate. I'm like, all right. And, we have a lot of meetings and we talk a lot. And this is probably something I should not be confessing in public, but I'm about 75% convinced that the behavior change results that I see when I'm coaching people are just from the fact that I'm listening to them. And the reason I say that is because I hear at least once a week from one of these clients, you are the only person that listens to me. It's such a problem in organizations. Guys, waiting to talk and listening are not the same thing. They're not. I've seen in organizations, like I'll sit in on like staff meetings with teams I'm working with, and what happens is you go around the room, you give your update, you make your pitch for what you want and all that good stuff. Every single person after person, they're all saying the same damn thing. They might be using different words, they might be phrasing it a little bit differently, but they're all saying basically the same thing. But they're missing that they're saying the same thing because they're not listening to what the people around them are saying. What they're doing is they're practicing in their head, here's what I'm gonna say when it's my turn to talk. Listening involves clearing your head, looking a person in the eye, and giving them your full, undivided attention without focusing on what you want to get out of it. Right? And your body language in this matters. Perception matters. Listen, guys, I'm about to piss off some of you in the room, FYI. If you have your laptop open in a meeting, people aren't going to perceive you as listening. Like, looking at you, the person over there. Yeah, it's your ticket. Do whatever you want. I don't care. But, if you're having a one-on-one meeting with people, you're not listening to them fully. And your body language matters too, right? Am I listening if I'm doing this? No. No. Closed body language, closed mind. Open body language, open mind. I know, I've got a PhD in this shit. Like, right? So can we all agree that we're going to try to be a little bit more better at listening? Can we all agree to that? Yeah. Awesome. And you know what's going to happen when you listen more? You're going to build trust. Now, we've talked an awful lot about psychological safety over the past couple days, so I'm not going to give you the spiel. I'm not going to talk about that. But what I am going to say is this. Psychological safety is a lot trickier than a lot of the presenters up here are making it seem. Yeah, she agrees with me. Because here's the thing, guys. Psychological safety involves making yourself vulnerable. You're asking other people to make themselves vulnerable, to let go of control, to go into the unknown. How many of you are comfortable when you feel like you're out of control in a situation? No one feels, you guys are all liars. You're all dirty liars. Because I bet you every single one of you feels uncomfortable when you get put in a situation where you don't have control over it. That's our natural instinct, right? That's our survival mechanism. So it is a lot more complicated than people are giving it credit for. And here's the thing, I would strongly recommend that everyone take a good long look in the mirror and ask themselves, is my organization cultivating bad behavior that does not support psychological safety? If that's what you want, if you say that you want to create a psychologically safe environment, you have to really look at this without judging yourselves, without beating yourselves up. But you have to really know where you're starting out from. And bad behavior doesn't always look like this guy. It doesn't always look like the overt asshole, right? Sometimes it looks like this. It looks like team members. Yeah, it takes a second, doesn't it? It looks like, so here's what I see when I see like organizations having this problem. They have these big team meetings and there might be multiple teams coming into the same room and they all want something, and then one half of the room starts digging their heels in and they say, that's not my job, that's your job. I'm just gonna worry about my part over here. They forget they're all on the same damn team, right? So here's your action item for this one. We're going to tiptoe into psychological safety. We're going to ease our way into it. We need to start looking for ways to compromise. Your goal should always, 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 always be to compromise. Okay? I saw this guy a couple months ago at South by Southwest. Was anyone there? No one? So I got to tell you, I only went to this session at South by because I wanted to make my husband jealous. Because he loves Arnold, I was really not expecting much from this. He's smart. I was shocked. And one of the things he was talking about was he was getting all the stakeholders together that were trying to fix healthcare in California and getting them all in the same room and talking to each other. And he said to them, before any of them got in the room, he said, not a single one of you should expect a 10 coming out of today's meeting. Every single one of you needs to be satisfied with getting a 7. Because if you get a 10, that means that guy over there gets a 3. And then it all falls apart, right? Guys, it is better every single day of the week to get 70 or even 60 or even 50% of what you want and to give someone else a win than it is to get 100% of what you want and to piss someone else off. Because people carry that around in their back pocket for years. And that's when we lose our ability to have those psychologically safe relationships. Because then it's like, I'm going to get him back for this, I'm going to get her back for that. It goes tit for tat, back and forth for years, right? It just doesn't work. Last thing that we need to really talk about is unapologetic optimism and positivity. And look, guys, this is the easiest thing in the world. Because optimism is our default state. We are born optimistic. We are born happy. We are born positive. Can any person in this room point out any time they've seen a frustrated, angry, stressed out baby? No. Your kids cry because they want stuff, but it's the way they have. But they're probably not pissed off, right? This is our natural state. We learn our way out of it. And somewhere along the line, we learn that optimism is unrealistic. Your full world of rainbows and unicorns and all that is just unrealistic, right? Here's the problem with that. No one's motivated by negativity. No one. Actually, that's an exaggeration. I'm going to keep myself in check here. 5% of the population is motivated by negativity, right? So that's the population you're going for when you're hitting it in this way. And so here's the really practical thing, and I'm just including it because it's one of my biggest pet peeves of all time in organizations. Can we please stop sandwiching feedback? Please. God, like you're losing, you guys all know the 5-to-1 ratio, right? You're losing the benefit of those two positive things by putting a big old stinking negative comment right in the middle of it. You know, John, the first paragraph of that report was awesome, but the rest of it sucked. But really good effort, man, really good effort. Like, come on, no one thinks those two positive things are genuine and you've lost their impact and all they're focused on is the negative. You know, I think someone up here earlier, I think it was the Warby Parker lady, was talking about, are you giving feedback to make yourself feel good or are you doing it for behavior change? I often challenge my clients to stop giving negative feedback. Just do it for like a week. We do a short time period because they're really nervous about not being able to say negative things. But you know what happens? When we make this a part of their process and we make positive recognition their only mission, the negative things go away. Why? Because people already know their problems. They don't need someone to point it out to them. And when you have someone suddenly coming in and just pointing out all the good things you're doing and you feel really good, all of a sudden you stop doing the things that are not working for you. Okay, we've got to make positivity an everyday act. I once worked at this company where one of the vice presidents, he brought in one day this big bag of those Mardi Gras beads, and he put them all in a bowl on his desk. And so he started this program where every time you wanted to thank someone for something, you go in, you get one of the beads, you walk it over to the person's desk in person, you say thank you, you hand them the beads, and then you go back to your desk and you write an email out to the entire company saying, Johnny Jones really helped me out and I appreciate it and I gave him some beads. Now, everyone thought this was cheesy as hell when he first started talking about it. But guess what happened in a couple of months? The offices were filled with beads. People loved those things. They took them as a point of pride. All it cost was a bag of Mardi Gras beads, right? These things are not expensive. You can become the champion of positive recognition in your organization. Now, what might get in the way of this? Let's look at an objection, right? Here's the thing that most people don't think about when it comes to positive feedback. Most people are very uncomfortable receiving positive feedback. Some people will even tell you, I don't need that. No, not true. Not true. They've just never learned how to receive it. We are taught from the time we're yay high to receive negative feedback. No one ever teaches us how to receive and really internalize the good stuff, right? And here's the thing, guys, the way we treat other people is a reflection of the way we feel about ourselves every single day. That's why we start here. That's why I want you all to start with yourselves and making yourselves feel really good. Because then you're going to be much more inclined to be able to receive that positive feedback yourself. And guess what happens? You're going to start giving it out more. And the more you give it out, the more you're going to teach people how to receive it. People are going to become more comfortable. And when they start becoming comfortable, then you've got a self-sustaining ecosystem because then they're going to start giving it out as well. All right? So to wrap this up, here's my challenge to every single person here. I want you to go back to work and ask yourself 4 questions. What are you doing, you specifically taking responsibility for, to support mental well-being in your organization? What are you doing for yourself and what are you doing for the people that you work with? What are you doing to show people that you're really listening to everything they're saying? What are you doing to build trust on your team? And what are you doing to create that culture of positivity? That's what we need to focus on. If you start there and you're committed to it and you're consistent with it, you are going to find other people in your organization that are going to come and help you. And then before you know it, you're going to have an army. Look, guys, here's the thing. The world is a perfect place. It's not perfect in that we get everything we want the minute we want it. But it is perfect in that we get exactly what we should expect to get based on what we are contributing to the situation. Thank you. So every single person has to go back to their offices and they have to become the person that contributes to the situation well. This is about aligning your actions with what you say you want every single day. All right, guys, that's what I have. I've got a few quick plugs before, please, I'll let you clap for me in a second. So first of all, if you want my slides, they are gonna be on SlideShare, but you can also pull out your phone and text Culture Summit, all one word, to 345-345. It'll ask for your email address and you'll get a nice email with the slides. The last thing is, we were told about my book earlier. It's coming out in September. It's called Zen Your Work. I'm super excited about it. Thank you. Now, here's the thing, guys. Super special bonus for people who pre-order it right now. You're going to get to enroll in a free program with me, and we're going to create a little community where we're going to work through the different exercises in the book together and help each other and support each other. Completely free for everyone who pre-orders it. Go on my website, and you'll be able to find out how to enroll in that. So that's all I have, and I don't know, do we have time for questions? I don't know. Two questions. Bueller. No one has questions? All right, I'm cool. Yes, question. She's right behind you.
Great, thank you. My name's Courtney.
Hi, Courtney.
My question is around, is it, the reference someone made earlier about like planting a tree. When is it too soon to plant a tree? So is there a point where it's almost gotten too far? Or like, how do you know when it's like too much to overcome and you need to?
Ooh, that is a great question. You know, I always recommend people to give it a try for like 3 months. Commit to it for 3 months. They say it takes like a month to build a habit. I actually think it's closer to 3 months because people fail and they have to start over, and there's a little bit of waffling that goes on. So give it a really good effort for like 3 months. If you're not seeing any movement from anyone, and the key to this is really what your leadership looks like. Honestly, if your leadership is just dead set against there being a positive culture, it's time to move on. Right? But at least you've done your part. You can only control, here's the thing, guys, you can't control other people. You can only control what you contribute to the situation. So if you're doing everything you can and you're not getting the response, you might not be in the right place. It's time to go somewhere else. Okay, one more question? Anyone? See a hand over here?
Oh, here, Kat.
One of my favorite Culture Summit people.
You said, when you were talking, you said, do we incentivize bad behavior? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Oh, God, yes, for days and days and days. Okay, so what happens, and I work with like a lot of agencies, and so I particularly see this in agencies. What happens when people ascend past that mid-level to executive level is bad behavior in terms of how you treat people, digging your heels in, not compromising, being that commanding Donald Trump style leader. It's actually incentivized. It's promoted. And so that's kind of what I mean. If the people that are behaving badly and are detracting from the culture are being rewarded by the culture, then that's incentivizing that behavior. Does that make sense? Yeah. Cool. All right, guys, I think that's all we have. Cool. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Let's give Karlyn another big show of gratitude. All right. Just wanted to thank everyone for being here. How many of you were here all 3 days at Culture Summit? Whoa, that's amazing. How many of you here just today and yesterday? Awesome. Give all of yourselves a round of applause. Raise your hand if you feel like you have a better sense of how to navigate culture in your organization, your community, the world at large. Awesome. Raise your hand if you're like, I still need to do some work on this and learn more things. I think we should all have our hands up as well. Awesome. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for showing up fully for yourselves, for each other, for all the organizations that we're working in. I also want to just give gratitude to Hung for having all of us, for his team. Yeah, let's. Thank you so much. We're going to let Hung say a few words. Thank his team. Thank his sponsors.
How about let's give Smiley a big round of applause, please. Phenomenal job as MC. Thank you, Smiley. Wow, I'm sad because it takes me about 10 months to plan one of these, and even though I added an extra day, I just felt like it wasn't long enough. So, Yeah, maybe a whole week. Thank you for being here. I'm so grateful. You could have gone to any other event, but you chose to be here. So thank you so much. I want to thank our speakers. I knew the content was going to be good when I reviewed the slides, but I'm just blown away by how good it is. Thank you to all of our sponsors, our partners, our volunteers. They're phenomenal. Thank you. And yes, thank you for being here, and we'll see you next year. Thank you.